Welcome to the second part of News Check. Just in case you joined us, Lucy Maura is our sign language interpreter. My name is Njue, and now I'm engaging two panelists, as I had mentioned earlier on. We're looking at the state of politics and matters in the country. I have in studio an advocate of the High Court and who is a constitutional lawyer. We have Gibson Gisore, who we have done a lot of work with.
Yes.
Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you, Ben. Happy to be and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I haven't seen each other this year.
Yes.
We also have another resident analyst here at KBC, Torosterdt, Alenga. Alenga, karibu sana.
Asante sana, shukran. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, my brother.
Glad to see you.
Now, before even we look at what the head of state talked about in Matters Chebukati, a survey, if you look at the dailies today, they're talking about the survey by the National Bureau of Statistics and also the National Council on Population Development. They released a survey yesterday which has generated a lot of debate, not only in social media. I was looking at today's dailies, and one of the dailies is talking about the headline, a cheating nation. Gentlemen, I'm quite sure you did follow up on how things were and how they announced this. But one thing that caught my eye is that they talked about since independence, there have been an average of 7 members. When people get married, they get about 7 kids, but now they are opting for 2 or 3 kids. And talking about fertility going down. Council, do you believe it's fertility going down, or what exactly is happening?
I don't believe Kenyan can be infertile.
Why is that? But statistics are showing that the population growth is now stalling.
I think what Kenyans are opting to do is family planning, which is proving to be a success. In that, the economy is also not doing so well. So you cannot have, for example, in Nairobi, you cannot have 7 kids unless you are out of your mind, because you think about schooling, you think about healthcare, you think about providing the needs for these kids. It's astronomical. So the best thing people are opting, and so I think I listened to what the people who released the survey were actually saying, that's a proof that Kenyans are actually following through with what is called family planning, which has been a program which has been implemented since independence, and is one of the success cases or stories of Africa. You remember, like our neighbor Uganda is the youngest country in the world. The average age in Uganda is 16. Yes, so that cannot be compared with Kenya, which has really embraced family planning. People are sensitized, and these things happen in the context of people having gone to school. It means the girl child in Kenya is well educated to understand the aspects of family planning, so that they can be able to, because really family planning is more of a control from the woman perspective. Of course, a man, much as you might tell me, then if the lady cannot be able to understand it and be able to apply it, then that becomes a challenge. So it's I think something which we need to look at positively and say that this is a result which has been practiced over time, and we are reaping the fruits. It's not like it's the fertility which has gone down. It's about the economics, it's about the population growth and the economy, and whoever has been planning it should be able to be happy and say that at least we are achieving something.
Alenga, do you concur with what Council is talking about? Is that what we have embraced in terms of matters family planning is really working, and that is why, and also the economy is quite charred?
I think I totally want to agree with Wakili's point of view that it's not really infertility to say that maybe Kenyan people are less fertile over the years, but there are silent antecedent variables that underpin that kind of result. And most fundamentally to look at is the uptake of family planning, as it has been alluded earlier. and also the issue of increased abortions in the country, and so then it drives us to contemplate whether this uptake of family planning is a good thing for the country going forward, or it's something that is going to give us another problem later on. If you look at the situation right now, Troy, you'll realize children start up on family planning even in secondary schools, and that is something they are being maybe told by their parents, because their parents want to substitute raising a child in a proper way with just mitigating a pregnancy. So you find Form 2s, Form 1s are already being introduced to family planning contraceptives by their parents, and at a very young age, in their teens actually. So maybe when they reach in the late 20s or the mid 20s there, we do not know really what would happen to them. So that then opens a new area of research to see what is the impact of this in the long run.
And as also we interrogate because a lot of the discussion has come about when we talk about what exactly is happening in the country. An interesting one also is half married women don't want to have babies. And could we be staring at what is happening in Europe, where people even are being rewarded so that they may get more kids to boost up the population? Or is it because of the lifestyle that people are living and the way things have changed? Could it be a contributing factor?
It could be a contributing factor. Remember now we live in a global village, Bentroy, and a lot of things which are happening in various countries, especially in the Western countries, which do influence what happens around greatly through the social media, through the other channels. Even the kind of research we do is actually based on whatever standards they decide to put across. So if we can be able to look at it from that perspective, yes, we can say it could be that. Secondly, it could be the issue of there's an underlying problem of families breaking down. And with the sensitized women now, or women who have gone to school, they try to look at the circumstances under which they are likely to raise a kid alone. Because they also talked about, I think the survey or somewhere else I read that like in Kenya, we could be doing 20 to 30% or 30, if I'm not wrong, around 30, I'm not so sure of the numbers, but it should be around there, that are single family homes, where it's a single parent, most likely it's a woman. So that could be also another factor which is making them feel like it's better to be single without someone than have a kid and struggling, especially with the economy, which is also not doing well. So if we can look at it from those two perspectives, then it can give the impetus that now I think I'm better off until I find that man whom I will want to start a family with, which anyway I'm not sure whether we will do that. So there's that perspective at the back of their mind that this might not work. So the reason I also say that is because as a practitioner of family law, I have even friends of mine who just come, they ask for advice how to get married. Once they are married, I think 8 months down, they are not together. They even come to you personally and tell you, Wakili, when you litunganisha ikitu, or you told us this thing it's not working. Tell us how soon can we be apart. So and it's quite a number. The numbers are alarming. So we need to look at things from both ends and be able to say that there could be a problem which we need to look at. There could be a societal issue which we also need to look at. But I think among the things we need to look at as a country, or whoever is doing the research, I hope the recommendations or his recommendation should be able to reflect that something needs to be done, and this should be done in the circumstances whereby society has to be socialized differently. But key among those, I think, is the economy. If people can be able to have money in their pockets and be able to have houses, there's really no problem of raising a family. Or if we come up with social schemes for education and health, because those are some of the key issues, and housing is good. The government is coming up with the housing schemes for the young people, because really that's where the problem is. Because once a young man, you're assured of getting a house, you can't live there alone. You don't want to live it with start a family there. Once you start a family, once you're assured that there's a good social health scheme where you can, and then of course the education is covered or well taken care of, then there's really no problem of raising even 7 kids as people would have anticipated.
Just like we always had.
Yes, but now in the current circumstances, there's every reason to give up on starting a family.
Yes, and you see, Alenga, people are more or less, if you ask me, embracing what we are seeing the West do, where you have, and despite the fact that you have a lot of money or wealth, you choose to have 1 or 2 kids. Perhaps that is why the numbers keep dwindling, just like they were announced yesterday. And there are people who just want to be together, but they do not want to have kids. And we are seeing this, something that we have seen from the Western nations. But now we are seeing it right here at home. But as Wakili has said, people begin and then say, whoa, this is not what I expected. A bit of a ground is different. And then they ask Wakili again, can we do a divorce?
I think that part of the survey I really want to differ with, because if you look at the best quality of research work is after you have completed your research, you juxtaposition it with previous research and other data that is operational at the time, so that you can discount your facts or strengthen your facts thereby. If you look at the population of the country for the last 3 decades, it has demonstrated that there's exponential growth of the population. So that would really conflict with their finding that birth rates are going down. And secondly, there are also other things we need to put into perspective, like the high cost of living. Probably the high cost of living would force people into cohabitation without really with the intent of raising a child, because of the fear of the unknown. And then the question of contraceptives now also comes in. Thirdly, we have issues of health, sexual and reproductive health issues. There are possibly people that may not conceive a child because of 1, 2, 3 issues. Some of them are maybe as a result of maybe wrong procedures in the past, maybe cesarean sections that were not done properly. Now the womb can no longer carry, the uterus can no longer support another baby. You have people that have had maybe long periods of sexually transmitted infections that affect their reproductive system. You have conditions that may not necessarily support a baby, things like ectopic pregnancies and endometriosis and the likes. So it's really a broad perspective that you cannot really pinpoint at one particular variable and say perhaps this is what is causing this. And then also when we look at, we also question that survey in terms of the scope of the research. What are the parts of the population that these findings come from? You know, did they basically in the recent past we've realized many researchers just dwell in the urban populations where they sample there, but then when you go deep into the villages, you realize people are having 9, 10, 12 babies and all that. So I think for such a research that should inform us about such sensitive demographic issues, then it has to be done over a great period of time. It's not something you can run through months and you have a finding. This is something that needs a lot of research over the years, monitoring the behavioral changes, and therefore coming out with a qualitative research that shows exactly what's the state of things. So to that end, I think I would slightly differ with that perspective of that research.
And let me go to the headline of one of the dailies: a cheating nation. Well, I don't want to go to the behavior itself. I don't want to be a moral cop, but they're talking about men in Kenya having an average of 7 sexual partners and women having at least 2. Again, I'm going to say I'm not going to the behavior itself or being a moral cop, but my point of concern is in regards to HIV and AIDS. Kenya being one of the African nations who have had the brand of HIV and AIDS infections, and we are trying how we can bring them down. This kind of behavior, I don't think we are going anywhere, Wakili.
Yeah, it's not a good, I mean, going by the headline as they put it, it's not something to be happy about. It's not something to be happy about. I hope it's not about the optics of selling, but if you look at the whole demographic of Kenya and you try to discuss such things, being very sensitive issues, then it could be true, it could be holding some sense of truth, but us being Africans, I don't know from an African perspective whether that could be something which you should be able to
unfortunately,
so that's looking at it from the optics of the Western nations. But as Africans, I think, but then strictly speaking to what I think I understood from what the owners of the research were actually trying to say is that the cheating nation aspect is not actually a true perspective, because the kind of questions which they put out there was not that how many sweethearts do you have at the current moment. What they were actually asking is how many people have you ever been with for the entire lifetime. So depending on the scope of people they were interviewing or people answering the questions, they came up with an average of 7 for men and for women too. So that really explains it, because I mean, there could be a 60-year-old man who says I've been with 7 women. So it's so that's on average 1 person per every 10 years.
Yeah.
So that one you can't classify it as a cheating nation. So but then I mean the owners of the research will come and explain it better. I think they better go and interview them first. But from what I heard them say, that's what I tend to believe.
The bone of contention here, Wakili, is the spread of sexually transmitted infection. We are hearing that Nairobi and some parts of country have a super gonorrhea. Now we are having people who have multiple sexual partners. The war on HIV/AIDS cannot be won if this kind of behavior keeps on. And maybe these people are talking about 7. Maybe it could be higher or maybe it could be lower. So by the end of the day is that this is a risky place to be in.
It is a risky business if we go by the optics of what it is in the title of the nation. If we literally take it that way, then we are in the red zone. We need to do something quick, because as you have alluded to, HIV status of the country is that recently, I think late last year, we had the cases spiking for one reason or the other. The places like Homa Bay and Nairobi and the larger cosmopolitan areas, there was really a spike, which even prompted the people, the AIDS Council, to actually come out and say there's a problem, we need to address it sooner before it gets out of hand. Now, if we try and look at it from that perspective and actually find that whatever this research was saying is literally taken to be the true position, then we as a country, we need to actually move in quick and be able to curtail some of these behaviors and be able to sensitize our people more. Back in the day, we could see a lot of adverts, we could see a lot of efforts, a lot of NGOs. But then I think for the last between 5 to 10 years, we have seen a slowdown in terms of government effort, in terms of even donor funding towards HIV/AIDS. That could be the reason. So if we can be able to continue with that pick up from where we left and be able to progress in terms of sensitization, doing a lot of advocacy on issues, AIDS, and the treatments, of course, because those have to go hand in hand. So the Ministry of Health needs to really come up with a game plan and a clear strategy on trying to combat some of these issues. And then at the end of the day, also try to sensitize the general population on some of these risks, because it's really incumbent upon government to actually ensure that the population is well sensitized on some of these issues to avoid such catastrophic results which we are seeing now.
Alenga, our AIDS preference rates are not looking good, but some kind of behavior that was pointed out in the demographic survey puts us in a much more dire situation.
I think they say that journalism is verified gossip. So for the nation to come up with such a sensational headline, I think it's really, it's not really the true picture of things, because as Wakili said, you need to find out what other facts are you placing that against, you know, and what are the other countries you're putting into perspective, and then now comparatively saying, okay, we think we are a cheating nation. I think to just summarily say so would be quite presumptuous, because you know, and also putting into perspective the question that was asked, that how many people have you had within your lifetime? So I think for 7 for a man is really too low for an entire lifetime. It's pretty low.
Again, I will not be
We should be asking why, you know. And I think when we discuss the issue of HIV infections, it's really a pertinent issue that I think in the recent past we've had a little bit of slowdown in terms of pushing the awareness and the uptake of antiretrovirals and the preventive measures that are involved. And also when COVID came in, we sort of shifted our attention to COVID at the expense of, and then during that time there was growth of the virus, the HIV virus, pretty much, and also given that people were home and people are not going to work and school, so there was a lot of idle populations, and that definitely caused a spike in the new rates. But most fundamentally to discuss is an issue that I think is very much at the center of new HIV or the great spread of HIV, and that is cross-generational sex, because you find you have young people that are already in relationships, in sexual relationships with older people, and the older people tend to think the younger people are more safer, they have not had many other partners before, and the younger generation tends to bow down to everything the older person says when they are in a relationship. So issues like protection, use of protection will not arise, because this teenager doesn't have much voice when they are together. So that is really where the issue is. And then when these teenagers get back to their fellow teenagers, they are also having other relationships. So the virus is spreading across due to that cross-generational relationships. So if that is dealt with, and I think it has a huge indictment to our parenting systems, because what is it that your child is doing? What are they up to? If you're having a teenager who is in high school and they are already buying clothes for themselves, they are already buying expensive phones for themselves, and you're not questioning what's the source of this money, then clearly you are losing up on a place that you should have been vigilant. So I think that is really what has posed a great challenge. And also I think we have a generation who did not grow during the times when HIV did not have the ARVs to mitigate the damage it does to your body. So I think some of us had the benefit of seeing how the virus would eat people up, and those pictures are still live in our mind, and you think about that and you shudder. You remember the videos Rafael Tuju would do a voiceover for, the ones will be shown in school, and they were really scary, and that sort of beat you up as an individual individual to think twice. But today we have the uptake of the ARVs and people are looking much better. And we have lots of people, they say they are those people who wanapima ukimwi na macho. They look at you and they say, no, this one is safe. So that is also something we should consider. And then even besides that, there are also other sexually transmitted diseases that are even more dangerous than HIV, like HPV, human papilloma virus, and hepatitis B. They are more lethal than even HIV. So if we look at it from a broader context of sexual reproductive health, then it puts us at a place where we can make right decisions as Kenyans.
Well said, gentlemen, and I would like us to shift focus now to a little bit of
just before let me just add something small which I think has said and it has touched me. Nowadays, the issue of parenting needs to be really looked at because the aspect of cross-generational sex, which is actually alluded to, is something which is actually causing the virus to really skyrocket. Because you find nowadays parents are not even aware where the kids are even at night. And these kids are holed up in a room, a couple of them, you don't know what they're doing. And some of them will not be cautious. They're drinking, they're doing all sorts of things, and it's really a scare as a country. Parents need to actually play a key role. And there was a debate some time back whether we should be able to start the aspect of sex education in high school or primary, even as early as primary, because these things are very practical. And people say, no, we cannot do that. But I think it's time we need to revisit the discussion and be able to sensitize these kids, because they could be operating from a position that they don't know. But if they are actually sensitized from school, which is the best place anyway to sensitize them, we'll be able to avoid some of these issues of the older people engaging with teens and such things, so that we can be able to cut this down to something which is manageable.
I totally concur. And if you want to see exactly how the survey, how they conducted it, the demographic survey, not only is it on social media, it's on the media, and also you can go to the website of the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. A lot is contained in that, but we will not touch everything. We have an issue on teenage pregnancies. The uptake of family planning is quite good in the country. So there are a lot of things that we can pick from that, including how the Kenya health system is, and what are some of the challenges that we have also faced. But because we are looking at the state of how the country is, allow me now to rope in what the head of state said yesterday. Well, yesterday, 17th of January 2023, marked the end of an era for the chairman of IEBC, Wafula Chebukati, Boya Molu, and also Professor Abdi Gulie, after their 6-year term was done, and also EACC chair Archbishop retired Eliud Wabukala. But there's something that the head of state said yesterday at State House. The day before yesterday, the chairman of the commission, before he left office, Wafula Chebukati, said that the August 15th, when there was announcement of the results for the presidential election, there need to be a probe in the conduct of a lot of people there and what exactly transpired. Yesterday, the head of state came up with a discussion that there was a attempt on the chairman of IEBC, that is Wafula Chebukati, by the deep state, so that to subvert the will of Kenyans, or to even not be able to announce the winner of the disputed 2022 August presidential election. And that is what will be forming part of our discussion. And we have Wakili, who is going to take us through what we expect in the recruitment of the chairman, and also the recruitment of the other commissioners of IEBC. I would like to start with you, Alenga. What do you make of that coming from a head of state? Just underscores how emotive and how life and death it is for electoral process in Kenya.
I think it should have come from someone else asking for an inquiry of the process to let us know what exactly happened before bombers, through the election period, and after bombers, and other emerging issues in that election of 2022, for purposes of number one, closure, and for purposes of sanitizing our electoral processes and making them meaningful to the extent that you and I can be compelled to vote again in 2027. When it comes from a sitting president who is a product of that election that we call, including himself, that it was not a clear contest, it becomes the product of that inquiry becomes more of a cognitive resonance issue, just to agree with certain facts that he agrees with in that election. So if it was being called for by an independent body or independent actors in the democratic space, then that makes sense. So for me, I'm thinking if the president calls for a commission of inquiry into that election, and then definitely it will be launched by himself, and then what will I really be reading in that commission of inquiry? So it means, it looks like the books, the books of the religious books, they are written by founders of those religions. So all the facts you get in there agree with the views of the founder, right? So to that extent, for me, I feel it's really cutting across the grain. And personally, what I think that the president should be doing in all honesty is trying to bring the country together, trying to galvanize the state, trying to answer the immediate questions that we have. We have immediate questions of ever-rising costs of living. We have dwindling job opportunities. We have an education system that is becoming a quagmire. There is uncertainties about the junior secondary school and all that. There is uncertainties about university education funding. There is uncertainties about electricity in the country. The other day he spoke about stopping the increase of electricity costs, but nothing has ever happened. So we wonder, do they listen to him or they do not listen to him? So those are the issues the president should concern himself with at now. And then the other issues of trying to find out what the election had must be pursued by other actors in the space.
What do you make of that, Wakili? And that just shows how serious elections are in the country. And in his report, in his Monday report, Wafula Chebukati mentioned that IEBC commissioners should be accorded security, and lots of it for that matter, because he talked about they had to switch off their phones, they had to hide so that they may not be taken by the deep state, as the head of state talked about yesterday. That just underscores how emotive still elections is a matter of life and death to this moment in Kenya.
Bentry, I might tell you, there are some places you should not speak about election. Up to the current time we are speaking, you just go there, you pretend you don't know anything about politics, because you don't know what somebody is thinking about. You might find that somebody is actually listening to, but is planning to hit you hard. So you can understand the person or the stage of a commissioner and the ulabalu which happened in Bomas at the time of announcing, how much people might be hating them from different quarters. So I think I will tend to agree that they need their security, because we don't want to lose them. And then the job of being a commissioner has been a condemned job. Whether you do it well, or damned if you do, damned if you don't. So whichever the case, I think we need to afford them security, because we don't want to lose anybody due to some things which we could have controlled. Having said that, I will also want to echo to what Alenga said here, that of course the president should concern himself with the more pressing things to solve the Kenyan problem. But from also where I come from, the president having taken power under such circumstances, it also behooves him to actually be able to take the lead. We have a president who takes the lead on everything. I think he made that statement in the perspective, because I don't think anybody else will have said it. And of course, the opposition is not in the interest to even look at such things. So it's only him, as the Kenya Kwanza leader, to actually say some mistakes happened and we don't want them to happen in future. From where I come from, I think it's in good stride. We need to actually be able to commend him and be able to have that commission, because from a personal perspective, I feel something went wrong which we cannot be able to condone. There was some shame which happened to us as a country, that we can conduct an election which is praised by everyone. Then at the tail end, we lose it, and then there's a fight, and everybody is watching. Even the international media were saying, like, this is what we told you. It's happening. It's really going on. It has started. And this is how it starts, and it will move. Because if you ask even Kenyans from both sides, they say that was really unnecessary. And I think for us to avoid such things, we can't sweep such a thing under the carpet. We need to actually have a discussion about it and be able to formulate better laws on how election announcement or how the commissioners need to behave, because some of the things which led to that is because of the last minute rupture at the boardroom. But there was the cohesion among the commissioners was also not was not good. So if we can be able to come up with laws, now we do a lot of internal management rules and regulations on how the IBC should be able to conduct their affairs to avoid such a shameful act. I think it's something we can be able to go by. And now that we also, this is the right time, because the people who are involved are actually leaving office. So I don't think there's any other better time so that we can address these issues. Also, as we move forward, we don't have something at the back of our mind which we are not sure what is going to happen. We shall have mitigated some of these known challenges, because now they are known challenges. So that whoever comes in with the new rules and regulations to apply, so that we don't end up having such a shameful act.
And I totally concur, because it was quite shameful at the tail end after having interviews. Because I was at Bomas of Kenya for the better part, and even on that material day, I was at the Bomas, and we had done quite well. But at the tail end, a lot of issues.
Even your security was at risk.
My security was at risk.
Yes.
But Alenga, looking at what the Constitution says, about 6 months to the end of the tenure of a commissioner or a chairman, the head of state is supposed to have started that process of recruiting another chairman or another commissioner. Looking at what the Senate, of course, tomorrow will be having a special sitting to debate the IEBC amendment bill, but at the end of the day, we are last-minute people. It's more than what they have already exited office yesterday. They exited office yesterday, and now we only have one commissioner, Irene Masit, who is facing. I don't know who she's facing, because now she's just. Even the government has talked about these people. That is the majority leader. Talked about these people should just exit office. So should we wait for the tribunal to conclude its investigations into that commissioner, so that if at all she is exiting office, she just exits and we have a lean, clean IEBC, or if she is vindicated, then we can look for other commissioners as well?
I think we have a serious problem in terms of how we manage constitutional institutions. We have constitutional institutions, but our modus operandi is still stuck in the era where the president would rule by fiat. So we are still conflicted whether to allow these constitutional bodies execute their mandate in an environment of freedom and openness, or still we want to gag them, we want to manipulate them. So we are stuck, we are conflicted on those two paradigms. So, but then the problem that we face is that we continuously cultivate an environment of mistrust with the electoral process. We continuously sow seeds of doubt in whatever duty these commissioners perform, because first of all, we look at it from the perspective that they serve the powers that be. And I would slightly want to differ with Wakili's point of view that the commissioner's job is a condemned one, damned if you do, damned if you don't. If we go by history and then we pick the election of 2002 as a prototype, we realize that there's a commissioner who actually conducted an election that was flawless, and there was no complaint thereafter, and the win stood, and beginning from there we could see a country proceeding well with its democratic engagements. And then in 2007, just like they say, one step forward, two steps backwards. And then progressively we have continued to go down, to go down in terms of how we hold the integrity of such offices. So if we have something to learn from, then we can learn from that election of 2002. And the commissioner that comes in from taken over from Chebukati must come with a mind of just wanting to give the country the best, because he has seen what happened in 2002, 2007, and how many people lost their lives because of the decisions or the conduct of the commission at the time. We saw 2013, 2017, 2022. So I think he has a huge resource to look at and then guide themselves in what manner they want to do, to go. And primarily it becomes an issue of personal integrity. You know, we cannot tell the commissioner what to be when he gets into that office, or whom to serve when he gets into that office. They know what to do. And the period also, you had actually said in a period of like 6 months before the commissioner's tenure comes to an end, there should have been a succession arrangement happening already, because this man or woman that will come in needs to learn a few things from the outgoing chair, and they do a handover process that allows him to settle well in the office. But then where we are, it's difficult.
Wakili, tomorrow we'll be having that special sitting at the Senate. Can you take us through what to expect after that, and what the timelines maybe?
The timelines about the IBC. Sorry, come on.
You can get the timelines for a recruitment of a chairperson, because it's going to take a couple of months.
Yes.
And a lot of people have talked about that we are not staring at a constitutional crisis. I believe, in my opinion, we are deep in that constitutional crisis. Or if we are not, then we are on the brink of it in terms of IEBC.
Yes, I mean, your fears are well founded, because if we delay on this process, we might end up into the red zone, but I don't think we are yet there. The reason why we are at this particular place is because of the election, which was very contentious. We should have planned better immediately after the election. The last election, we should have had whoever came into power to actually set things in motion, that the commission be able to be founded. But you know, that was not possible because of the circumstances which were surrounding him. And now this is the best time. Still there's time. We can be able to form that particular commission, which should be able to sit. Once the commissioners have been chosen, they are supposed to come expeditiously. Of course, now we are on the very end. Once they are able to sit and convene, and I think within a month or 30 days, the president, once he appoints them, we should be able to give them the word go on how soon they should be able. So we saw some commissioners who were given, I think, 30 days to come up with like the CBC people. We were given a short timeline.
30 days.
Yeah, 30 days notice to get to work. So once they start doing that, then of course we should be able to have a chairman in the span of from May, at least May, June. By May, June, we should be able to have somebody in office.
If we need anything at IEBC right now, yes, there is a CEO and there's a secretariat there. What happens? Because we cannot rule out anything can happen.
Yeah, anything can happen, but we are not hoping that it happens.
Yeah.
The secretariat should be able to stand in, and of course the commissioners are out. They cannot be recalled back. So the secretariat should be able to.
Could they have any powers to act perhaps on an acting capacity, or with reduced?
You see,
just like we saw President the former president Uhuru now had diminished powers soon after we elected the president, but he was still holding fort.
It's not a case of that particular incident because the commission and the secretariat have differentiated roles. So for the running, day-to-day running, it will be done by the secretariat. If you need to do something, they will be able to see it through, because it's a fully formed secretariat. There's nobody else left. Once now, the issues which involve the commission are the things which will have to wait till the commission is in place. That's where we can only have a challenge, and that's why we pray that we don't have a situation where we need something which is urgent, which is supposed to be done by the commissioners.
Alenga, looking at the recruitment process of the chairman of IEBC and looking at the previous chairman, if we mention all of them, I'm quite sure that Wafula Chebukati is the first one in Kenya to have ever completed his term. Looking since the Gisore, and this is the first one to complete his term. But I will say that the IEBC chairman, Wafula Chebukati, as he exits office, is one of the guys with the toughest skin. Hardly had he settled down in 2017 than people were talking about, no, Chebukati must go, and we witnessed that in 2017, and even the right honorable former Prime Minister Raila Odinga decided, I'm not going to the ballot if that guy is the one who is going to be the referee. We want to avoid this, because looking at what the IBC, we have come a long way, and looking at 2022 election, we should be building on that. What is the ideal person for this job?
I think it's very important for you that you have discussed the issue of the next chair and what we're going to look out for, and
away from political.
Yes, and in context, you have actually alluded to Chebukati having served his tenure to the end. It must be remembered that Chebukati once vied for an MP position on ODM ticket, and he didn't win. So I think that should also guide us when we are looking for the next chair. We should not look for somebody who has ever had political interest here and there, because they could come in with maybe some scores to settle. I'm not really saying that that is what happened, but I think there is a place that also plays in your performance of your duties. So, and then so who is the kind of chair we are looking for? We're looking for a Kenyan who understands what is happening in the politics of the country. We are a young democracy that is eagerly growing, you know. If we place ourselves amongst our peers in the region and even in Africa as a whole, we have demonstrated that we have the interest of growing politically and holding on to certain tenets of democracy that matter, you know. So we need somebody that can help us to propagate that. We need a chair that will have in his leadership, the place of dialogue will be very much accentuated, in the sense that he can sit down with the parties, the players in the contest, and they can talk and iron out issues, so that there is no space for building up assumptions and drawing conclusions. That is what really happened during Chebukati's time, because I don't know if he's naturally a quiet person who doesn't want to talk much. I don't know. Or if he was simply ignoring people, you may not really know. So while he did that, he created a lot of room for people to make up assumptions, for people to create things about him and conclude, you know, so that every time IBC was coming to speak on an issue, it would be post facto, after the fact. You remember even issues like acquisition of materials, would have like the journalist being told to run to JKIA that there's material coming in, and then people be like, you actually brought materials. Even some of the commissioners will be like, so we have materials coming in. And then he will now explain, okay, we ordered the materials, this is what we are bringing them in batches. So already that cultivates a high level of integrity issues, suspicion that you cannot cure in one press, And then issues like, remember the printing of an extra booklet of Form 34As, and then now after he's asked, then he now says, okay, that one we'll just send it to the polling station, then you can package it and bring it back to us. Then somebody asks, so why printing it, And even in terms of, you remember we had a comical moment on TV when one of the journalists, I think it was Ayub Abdikadir, who is now at Citizen, asked issues about a company that was going to run the election. There the CEO was saying, I don't know, I don't know about those facts.
I'm learning about them now.
I'm learning about them now, this presser. So it put us in a very embarrassing situation. So we want a commission that talks to the parties, because the commission is a Kenyan commission. The political parties and other stakeholders in the election are all Kenyans. So if we have them talking through the 5 years, so that by the time we are getting into the election, we have ironed out most of the issues, because you remember most of the issues we have are issues of perception. Some of them may not even be legit, but it's just how we saw you passing at near Harambe House. What were you doing there? And you're the chair. So we just want a commissioner who can be able to talk to us, talk to Kenyans, talk to political parties, talk to the government, talk to agencies, the security agencies, hold meetings and disseminate the information to the public so that you winners are off suspicion.
Council, looking at, of course, the ideal man or woman, do you believe that we should maybe wait for the outcome of the tribunal that is investigating the last standing commissioner, Irene Masit, before we start the recruitment process?
I think Masit, she has insisted she needs to have a day in court or a day.
And now we have to look for 5 other commissioners and a chairman. I'm quite sure there are some people who will have jitters about her being one of the commissioners. So if at all the commission, we don't know how the tribunal will rule, but if at all the tribunal will say that he needs to go, now we have the best opportunity in the world to have commissioners and a chairperson all coming in clean
or fresh,
and we will avoid a lot of loopholes and a lot of suspicion, because Kenya, we have a political trust deficit.
That is true. I tend to agree with what you are saying. We need to actually know what is the predicament of Irene Masit before we make any conclusive further steps, so that that will act as a precursor of what actually we'll be doing. Otherwise, we might be able to proceed or run with the process so far, and then, as you say, she's cleared and the process so far, and then, as you say, she's cleared and she's back to the commission. If she's cleared, but there's also the possibility of her being cleared and say, I don't want the job anymore, you pay me, go. So that is also another possibility. Or she could actually be told, yes, but now we don't feel that you should be in place. We are officially terminating your services, but then you will be able to be entitled to your terminal dues.
The house look like it has been cooked already.
we don't.
What we had, and why I'm saying this is because the leader of majority said that the honorable thing that these commissioners should do is to resign, and we have seen already 3 have already resigned.
Of course, the chairman of the commission is entitled to whatever opinion or whoever is instructing him. But you see, in this country, it's not based upon the chairman of the tribunal to tell you to quit. You have an inherent right to actually fight for your rights to the end. And if Irene Masit says she wants to be given a fair chance to explain herself or to vindicate herself or not, let her be given that. If still the commission, the commission is not an end to itself. They will give their recommendations that she should be sacked. If she feels that the commission was unfair, she still go to court, and the court will look at the facts afresh And if they actually find that indeed the tribunal really didn't carry itself in the manner in which it was supposed to carry, or didn't give her the right of audience which she ought to have been given, then, or didn't consider some of the evidence she actually adduced, then court will be able to rule otherwise. So this is not a process which you run and then the commissioner says, now your case is already finished, just go home. It's not like that. If we were to operate in a country which is actually run by whoever is in authority, whatever it says, and we go by it, it will be a very sad state of affairs. So I think, as you said earlier, let's just first know what is the predicament of Irene Masit as we proceed forward on any other steps which we'll be making.
All right, Alenga, yes, as you wrap it up.
I think something we also need to look at, Wakili, is when Irene Masit was taken to the tribunal, it was not really distinguished who is her accuser.
Yes.
That's a really
such a situation, really.
So you even if the tribunal makes a ruling, then the tribunal has to tell us it's making a ruling for who, because we do not know who took Masit to the tribunal. Is it the president? Is it the chair? We do not know. And then now establishing because the tribunal has a responsibility to find if Masit, just by my assumption, the tribunal has not even said what the objective of that sitting, what they want to establish. But let's assume they want to establish that Masit interfered with the outcome of the election. So number one, we would want to know who is her accuser and who is supplying the evidence to the effect. So for you to establish that criminality,
the culpability element has got to be tested beyond reasonable doubt. That I mean, it's also good that we have such practices, because at the end of the day, how do you just castigate somebody that you operated with a group which you don't like? Now the group has left, you also need to go.
Yes. And even what Kenyans should also remember is that since the election, Irene Masit has never said anything about that election. Even on the day that her counterparts were speaking, she never said anything. So we don't know her position.
Much as also even the others resigned, I think I will tend to agree that we need that tribunal to actually be formed for all of them, so that it's clear
even if they decided to resign, to know exactly what transpired.
We know
like
what
the
actually
entire
transpired,
commission,
so that we find not even for them, actually for the country, so that we are able to solve ourselves of whatever challenges they faced. We're able to know 1, 2, 3, this is what they faced,
and we also avoid
and then in future. Also we have further recommendations on how to solve it, so that Parliament can be able maybe to enact laws, or if it's about coming with regulations, so that whoever comes into office cannot face the same challenges forward in the next election.
I think Wakili's point is very, very strong, that Kenyans really need to know that, because if you select 4 people and you're subjecting them to a tribunal about an election, it's like you have isolated good ones and bad ones. It's like you're saying Boy Amolu and Chebukati and Professor Abdigulia are the good ones, these are the bad ones. So it's already like it's a predetermined end, You have
the good apples and the bad apples.
So even after this tribunal is ended, let's have a whole commission where all these people appear and they all tell us exactly what happened, so that we can have a conclusion. And now as Kenyans, we can draw a tea table and determine, okay, which are the bad fruits and which are the good ones.
All right. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. But allow me to also appreciate other people who had kept watching since we started. Ibrahim Obuaka, thank you so much. Geoffrey Aruba was also watching. Brian Akina, you say you're live from Kayole. Big up, guys. Eugene Watangwa, is a great work. I'm in Uganda following up. Kavuma Dio, Dennis Karia, good work. Karibuni, munifollow hapa FB, Sauti ya Mkenya. Chikwa, is a great job. Well, they keep coming. Mzungu Ndigo, Darigube, watching live. If you know Gori, you say you're also live. But we unfortunately have run out of time. We've come to the tail end of News Check. this Wednesday morning. Thank you so much for joining. In the next couple of minutes, you will be with my colleague Khalid Abdullahi on the other side of the studio for Kurunzi Mashinani and Tamrini. I was hosting an advocate and a constitutional lawyer and also a governance expert. That is Wakili Gibson Gisore. Thank you so much, Wakili. And also we have Torosterdt, Alenga, who is a leadership and governance expert. Gentlemen, always a pleasure having you on board. Thank you so much for your time and for your insight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ben Troy Njue. Lucy Mwaura has been our sign language interpreter for this live program. Let's continue the conversation on social media.